Will Giannis be a Dallas Maverick? I want to talk about that. And even if he doesn't end up in Dallas, could Dallas get involved with the trade? On today's Locked On Mavs.
This is Cooper Flagg, and you're listening to Locked On Mavs.
I think that's a good question. Good morning, Isaac.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't.
Your team every day.
I'm going to get a city like that.
You are locked on the Dallas Mavericks. This is one of your hosts, Isaac Harris, covering the Mavs for the last 10 years. 10 years. And here we are. Talking about the Dallas Mavericks on today's One More Thing. Nick and Slightly got your post-game covered from last night. What about that win? This 3-game winning streak? My gosh, what a roll this team is on right now. Some healthy bodies out there, some changes to the lineups. Crazy what a point guard does for your team that dribbles and play makes, and AD playing at the 5. Who would have thought? I want to talk about Giannis, though, in this One More Thing. Anytime you have a player of Giannis's caliber, the ripple effects goes throughout the whole league whenever there is a potential trade of someone like that. Let's just throw out Luka and that whole situation. I was literally explaining to my wife tonight. We were sitting down at the table with the kids, and she's like, I mean, like, he doesn't, like, players like that do they get traded? Why is this going to be a big deal? I was like, well, typically they don't. I know Luka's different, because then it's just like, well, Luka did. So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of like the outlier. You can't use that as an example every time now. But Giannis, according to Shams, tweets out today, man, it's real now. Just in, Giannis and his agent. Hold on. There you go. Giannis and his agent have started conversations with the Milwaukee Bucks about the two-time MVP's future, discussing whether his best fit is staying or elsewhere, sources tell ESPN. Resolution is expected in the coming weeks. After that, Giannis gets hurt in the game against the Pistons, leaves the game, doesn't come back into the game, and he's getting an MRI. The results of that have not came out yet, so it could, like, invalidate this podcast. But I just wanted to, as soon as that happened, it was the same time that I was sending out Q&As on our weekly Q&A on our subtext program, our Locked On Mavs Insider program. And, just got a ton of questions about Giannis. Is he going to be a Maverick? Can we flip AD for him? And even if he can't be a Maverick or he isn't a Maverick, can Dallas get involved? I was like, all right, let's do one more thing. Let's do this. Let's talk through some of this stuff. All right. So real quick with Giannis, I don't want to go through all of his stats because y'all know he's one of the best players in the league. He's top 5 player in the league. But just for the trade purposes, he's 30 years old. He makes $54 million this year, $58 million next year, and then a player option for $62 million the year after that. So you're basically, with his contract stuff, you're going into next year. He's going to opt out of that last year of his player option, most likely. You're going into next year as kind of like he's on an expiring contract. You're going into next year with the hopes of, hey, we got to figure out the long-term contract solution, whoever it is, Bucks or another team. So I want to get to the Shams mentioning the Knicks here in a second, but let's just start here. Can the Mavs get Giannis? Could they financially get Giannis? Yes, they could. They could get him financially. It's not impossible for that. Do I think Dallas ends up with him? I don't, unless he forces his way to Dallas. You're like, Isaac, why would he do that? Well, I think the number one reason why he would do that is to play for Jason Kidd again. He loves Jason Kidd. I literally was in the locker room with Giannis was it last week? Gosh, last week or 2 weeks ago. And there was just, I guess, like 5 or 6 of us waiting to talk to him. He's so much fun. We could go down that whole route. But he took questions about Jason Kidd and Cooper Flagg. And, he's like joking about Jason Kidd and how that's his guy and how much he credits Kidd for his career and all these things back in their time back in Milwaukee together. So he would have to force his way to Dallas and say, hey, I only want to go to Dallas. I only want to play with Jason Kidd. I want to play with Kyrie Irving, this new kid, Cooper Flagg. It's not the worst case in the world. I'll say that. Like, for the people who are like, dude, Giannis would never want to play for, this crappy organization, whatever it is. I don't believe that, because if there's one star out there that actually has some connections of a Jason Kidd, a strong Jason Kidd connection, who loves playing for Jason Kidd, knows Kyrie, Cooper is Cooper, I'm just saying there's crazier cases for other teams. But do I think it's going to happen? No, because I expect Milwaukee to want a plethora of draft picks. So let's just say if Dallas if he did force his way to Dallas, AD would have to be in that trade. And then you're looking at, it would have to be probably a third team in that. You send AD somewhere else, because I'm assuming if Milwaukee is trading Giannis, they don't want a guy like Anthony Davis. They want to go a younger direction. So then you're flipping Anthony Davis. So then the deal would be Lively, Max Christie, whatever first that you can offer. I guess your upcoming 2026 first, your 2031 first, and then look at the package that you're getting back for AD from another team, and throwing a pick into that. If you're Milwaukee, it's not ideal. Once again, if you're Milwaukee, I think you're wanting a ton of picks. I think you're wanting at least one young stud back. And then I don't know how they feel about salary cap and all that. So I don't want to burst your bubble, but I am. I just don't think Dallas, I think it would just take Giannis saying, I have to go to Dallas for Giannis to end up in Dallas. Now, does that mean you won't see the Mavericks in a Shams tweet whenever or if/when Giannis gets traded? No, because I think this is where Dallas could come into play, and they can hop in, and they got salaries, they got all kinds of stuff that can hop in as a third or a fourth, or if you want to get Galaxy Brain, a fifth team in a possible deal. Let's take a quick break, and I'm going to go through some scenarios. I'm going to throw at you some exact trades. I'm going to throw you one that really scares me. And I'll tell you one I actually really like for all parties involved. This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You could buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. This podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Guys, the World Cup is coming back to North America and Dallas. Let's go. Shout out to E, who's working World Cup stuff right now. For the first time since 1994 back in North America, and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why Game Time app is clutch. Finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track the price drops in real time. Guys, I will go to a World Cup game. Mark my words. And I'm going to try to use Game Time for this. Get alerts when you get gray seats open. Buy tickets. The moment they hit the app, it puts the power back in your hands. It makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. Every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app. Make an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, talking about Giannis. Talking about the Mavs. Is it possible? I just talked about if you're in the camp of like, hey, Giannis to Dallas, one, I would love that. That would be awesome. Him and Cooper together. Oh my gosh. But I don't think it could happen. I don't think Dallas has the package, and they're not giving up Cooper Flagg. So, rightfully so. How can Dallas get involved? All right, let's do this thing. One, I think if Dallas gets involved in a Giannis trade, I think it has to be a 4-team trade. You're like, hey, why does it have to be a 4-team trade? Why can't it be a 3-team trade? Because I don't think Giannis is coming to Dallas, and I don't think AD is going to Milwaukee. So therefore, you need a place for Giannis, and you need a place for Anthony Davis, the other 2 teams in the deal. So I think it has to be a 4-team trade. Let's look at the Knicks first, because Shams mentioned Giannis having he was interested in the Knicks. However he worded that, I wouldn't have the exact wording, but you guys seen the report. If you haven't, look at Shams' report on ESPN. And the Knicks were mentioned as a possibility. When you start looking at the Knicks, man, the Knicks, I made a mistake earlier in the season. I said that the Knicks were a second apron team. They are, right on the second apron. So they're not technically a second apron team. So I misspoke on that a month ago, maybe. So they can aggregate salaries, but they can't, they're not a second apron team. Meaning if they want to combine salaries and stuff and go get Giannis, they could in theory do that. But I think if they go after Giannis, it has to be a trade with Towns. And then it comes down to, is Milwaukee looking this saying, nice, Karl Anthony Towns is our return for Giannis? I don't think so. I don't think that's the move. So then you try to bring in a third team and you're like, all right, who's the third team that's going to take Towns? What's the offer from there? And I'm sorry, I just don't see the Knicks angled to pulling this off. Once again, I think it would have to get ugly. I think Giannis would have to force his way there, because they kind of emptied the cupboard of picks to get Mikal Bridges. So unless I'm seeing something wrong, it's not like they have a million picks to go get Giannis with, these really good young players. I get Giannis wanting to go there. It's New York. You get to play with a really good point guard, Jalen Brunson. Shout out to Luka and Brunson. Winning player of the week. Awkward. So I just don't think the Knicks thing is happening. I just don't. Yeah. Anyway. So where could he go if other teams get involved? So, actually, let's stay with the Knicks just for a second. I forgot I wrote down a Knicks one. Let's say he makes New York happen and he's like, hey, I want to go to New York, and they pull off some type of trade with Towns. So Giannis to the Knicks. Bear with me, guys. This is if Dallas gets involved in this. Giannis to the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns to the Mavs, Anthony Davis and Miles McBride to the Hawks. And then it's Trey Young, Kennard, and picks to the Bucks. I don't love this trade for a lot of different teams. This is mainly because, we've talked about the Towns and AD swap if they ever wanted to do that. So I'm not going to rehash that. But if you're Milwaukee, do you really want the main return coming back for Giannis being Trey Young? And I get it. He's under 30. He's like, 27. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. You haven't had a good point guard in there for a bit. You had Dame and Drew and stuff pre-injury, but I don't know. I just feel like they can do better. Once again, I think that would take Giannis forcing it. The Hawks, you're trading basically Trey Young and Kennard and a pick for Anthony Davis and Miles McBride. I actually think that's pretty good for the Hawks. For Dallas, you're making the AD Town swap, whatever. New York gets Giannis, and they still get to keep, Miles Bridges and OG and Josh Hart and those guys. They would be the instant favorites in the East. Anyway, I think if you're Bucks, you're saying no, because I don't know, unless they love Trey. Let's keep going. Man, y'all might not like fake trade. Well, fake trades are always fun to do because, some people are like, dude, this is actually kind of cool. And the other people are like, you suck. I do a lot. All right, let's bring Chicago in the mix, and let's bring Miami into the mix. because I just watched the Miami Heat play Dallas, and I know if I'm Milwaukee, I'm looking at this and saying I want Khalil Ware on my team because I think that dude's really good. He's a lot of fun. All right, so Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy to the Bulls, Giannis and Isaac Okoro to Miami. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. Giannis and Okoro to Miami, and then you're looking at Kobe White, Andrew Wiggins, Herter, and a pick or two to Dallas. And then it's Khalil Ware, Yakuchonis, who hasn't played yet, is a late lottery pick, maybe, from this last draft. Vooch, Terry Rozier, bet on that one. Those are 2 expiring contracts and picks. So if you're the Bucks, you're looking at it and saying, hey, Khalil Ware, Yakuchonis, a point guard, big point guard, that's a rookie with draft picks. Is that our replacement? Is that a decent type of haul? I think it's better than getting Trey and some things. If you're Dallas, you're swapping Anthony Davis. You're swapping Anthony Davis to basically get Kobe White, Andrew Wiggins, expiring of Herter and a pick or two. I think you could do worse. I would actually like Wiggins on this team next year. Expiring contract next year would be cool. The Heat obviously get Giannis in this deal and still keep Tyler Hero, still keep Bam, Norm Powell. They would be pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. And Jaime Jaquez. Let's keep going. AD to the Bulls. This one's kind of wild. AD to the Bulls. Giannis to the Celtics. Yeah, you heard that right. Derek White, Vooch, and a first to the Mavs. And then Simons, Essengay, Gonzalez, Collins, and picks to the Bucks. Oof. I don't like this for the Bucks. I'm not a big fan of this one. I was just trying to think of a way for Boston to get involved in this without it being Jaylen Brown. Dallas would have to really like Derek White as like the main centerpiece back for Anthony Davis, which I like Derek White a lot. Yes. And to get a first expiring in Vooch for AD, some of y'all are probably freaking out. You're like, dude, I just watched the last 2 games. How would you trade him for Derek White? Once again, I'm not saying I would do all these trades. I'm just saying, hey, I think I could see them making sense for all the teams involved. I just don't think that's enough for the Bucks. Simons, Essengay, the flyer on him, Gonzalez. Yeah, I just don't think it's enough for Bucks. Don't like that one. I don't want him to go to the Spurs, but hear me out. Will the Spurs give up Dylan Harper for Giannis right now? AD to the Bulls. I guess keep on using the Bulls because they're just the easiest in this scenario. If it's a 4-team trade and Dallas is involved. Anthony Davis to the Bulls. Giannis to the Spurs. Ugh, oh, that would be hard. Dylan Harper, Essengay, salary, and picks to the Bucks. And then Kobe White, Keldon Johnson, Vooch, and a first to Dallas. So Dallas would be trading Anthony Davis for Kobe White, Keldon Johnson, Vooch, and a pick. The Bucks' main return for Giannis would be Dylan Harper, the flyer on Essengay, which is a lottery pick from this past year. Some salary like Harrison Barnes and another player. Then obviously you get a lot of picks in that deal from the Spurs. And then they would still have De'Aaron Fox, Giannis, Wemby, Vassell, Sohan, Carter Bryant. Ugh, that would be tough. That would be tough. So, all right. That's the best way I think Dallas can get involved, right? Like there's probably a lot of other ways. You probably thought through some if you are a trade junkie like I am and just, I'm that like meme to where you're like laying in bed and your wife's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And it's like, I'm just on, trade spo. It's like, or trade, Bill Simmons trade machine. And I'm just like going through different trades. I'm like, would that work? What would be the logic of this one? And I just have too much fun with that. But my guess of what will happen, I think the Bucks do end up trading Giannis. And I don't think they can settle on the return. Like they can't get roasted like Nico Harrison did. So I am fascinated when it comes to the next response from a fan base to where will a trade be as lopsided as the Luka trade? No. But will that live in fear of any other sports management when you're making a trade. Like, let's just look at Milwaukee right now with Giannis. Is there any fear of like, man, how will our fans take this? Because we just saw Dallas's fan base run their GM out of town. And if we don't get the peak amount of value for Giannis, it could get ugly in Milwaukee. And I just wonder if that's like what's going through their heads after seeing what happened in Dallas. And I will say, like, you can't settle, right? Like, you're Milwaukee. Like, you don't get free agents and stuff until you had Giannis. So you can't settle. You can't get, you know, like, I think that they can come to a middle ground of like, we're going to work with you, but we also can't settle and stuff too. So I don't think the Knicks can get there. He might force it. He doesn't feel like a force it type of guy. But I just don't think the Knicks can get there because they just don't have the picks and the bank of picks to give with a Towns, or they don't have like the young stud that they can throw in the deal. So I don't think that happens. I think it comes down to two teams, and I think it's Miami or Houston. I think Miami could put a scary package together, and I think Giannis would probably want to go to Miami, play with Spoelstra. Spo's literally the best coach in the NBA. What he's doing with his offense this year and the difference of it between last year, like, and the player buy-in, it's so impressive. Wasn't impressive enough to beat Dallas, though. Let's go. But man, they have the young guys. They have the contracts to throw in there. Yeah, and they can do that while still keeping Bam and Hero to go with Giannis. And then the Houston one all centers around Şengün, right? Like, if Houston's looking at this, if Milwaukee looks at it and says, hey, we are trading Giannis this year, we're not waiting to the offseason, what a decision for Houston, right? One of the best teams in the Western Conference, one of the best teams in the league. But this year, one shot to get like Giannis. That's the one that I would be fascinated about. Because I honestly think, I mean, if you're Giannis, would you want to go there? I think it would be cool. You get to play with Ime, one of the best coaches in the league. You go to, I mean, yes, the Bucks will be trading to the West, so they would like that. It's not ideal for him to go to the West, but you get to play with Kevin Durant. You get to play with Amen Thompson. Like, they could put a deal around Şengün, Fred VanVleet's contract. He's out for the year, and like Tari Eason, and Giannis is coming in there. Reed Shepherd's still there. Like, you still got so many. Jabari's still there. I mean, that would be that series of that team versus OKC in the playoffs. Holy crap. I wrote in here, don't rule out Boston. Like, would you be totally shocked if it was a Jalen Brown for Giannis trade? Totally shocked. I don't know. I don't know what Milwaukee's like prioritizing. And I'll leave this one for the last. This is the one that scares me, and this is why I don't want to put it in here, because I can't have him on the Lakers. I just can't. I like Giannis too much, and my heart can't handle him and Luka doing pick and roll in a Lakers jersey. It's been tough. It was tough seeing Dorian Finney-Smith in a Lakers jersey first. Then it was tough seeing, and then Brunson in a Knicks jersey, and then Luka. It's like, I hate all of this. To see him and Giannis together in LA would be brutal. Be like, hey, why are you scared about it? Well, this is how it happened. Giannis to the Lakers. Gross. Karl Anthony Towns to the Hawks. You're like, hey, why is Towns in this trade? Because I think LeBron would go to the Knicks. Is that somewhere he'd waive his no trade clause? And then you're looking at Austin Reeves, Asa Newell from Atlanta, expiring contracts and picks to the Bucks. And the Bucks are looking at it saying, hey, our return is Austin Reeves. We'll take a flyer on Asa Newell, first round pick from this last year. We'll get some, draft picks in this deal too. You get one or two from the Hawks. You'd get that Lakers pick that should have been Dallas by now. The only thing with this is, would the Knicks really swap out Towns for LeBron? They would have to like really be wanting to get out of the Towns business and not want to pay him long term. That was a lot of names I just threw at you, but I literally just wanted to go to the drawing board and be like, all right, how could Dallas get involved in the Anthony Davis trade? And I think the only way they get involved directly, as far as the same exact transaction, it would have to be at a 4-team trade. I think you're hopping in this. You're hopping into the trade with, all right, how are we getting a couple of different things from some other teams? Anthony Davis is in that trade, and it's like the Anthony Davis team, the Giannis team, and then you have Bucks and Mavs, and then who can recoup what out of that group. So I think that's the only way. I think it is possible for Dallas to hop in this. We'll just see what the next few weeks unfold. So there's some Giannis talk, and we'll be back with another episode Thursday night. Go listen to the post game. Nick slightly after a big win. Mavs won 3 in a row. If Milwaukee, though, if they want a Nimhard, better hang up that phone now.